Hi, colleagues. We are back, and thank you. I'm happy to see you all with us in our stream. And I want to remind you that it's a BA Excellence Conference that is owned by Global BA Community. My name is Eugenia Ovcharenko. I'm a head of it. So today we are trying to discuss a lot of different topics. And the next one is like super interesting, super specific. I believe you can find a lot of cool insights. So because it's all about machine learning and BAs in these projects. Like during this session, our speaker will answer and will try to clarify popular questions if BA is really needed on such kind of projects and what they should do there. So let me introduce Zura. Hi, Zura. Are you with us?
Hi to everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, well.
The popular question today. Thank you.
I guess we can start.
Okay. Thank you so much for such a cool introduction, Zhenya. Okay. So let's start. As Zhenya already said, today we're going to talk about business analysis and machine learning. And before I start, I would like to thank all of you for joining, because I know for the most European location, it's already Friday evening. So that's why I really appreciate that you're here. So let me start from the quick introduction. So my name is Zura Seferbekova, and I'm business analyst in IPAM, Lithuania. I work in Vilnius. So here on the slide, you can see the list of my main achievements, as well as my working experience and companies which I was work for or working right now in IPAM, as you probably know. So before I start, I would like to tell you a story which actually motivated me to make this speech. So some time ago, we had a conversation with my colleague who is business analyst as well. So he sincerely asked me if business analyst is really needed on machine learning project. So today I'm going to answer this question in detail. So I think this is the right moment to switch to the content side. So first of all, we will talk about the variety of AI and machine learning projects, and we'll answer the question if BA interaction is really needed. After that, I will tell you about the must-have skills and competencies, which would be really useful for you if you will decide to join such a project. Moreover, we will talk about software development cycle specifics, and we will compare it with a traditional one. After that, we will have a zoom in on BA practices and BA NML projects, and I will show you some concrete examples of BA activities. After that, we will talk a little bit about requirements, and I will show you some hints here. After that, I will switch to the practical cases, and I will share my experience on different kind of projects, and we will talk about object detection and recommendation systems here. And after that, I think like the most precious part of this presentation is life hack and tips. I will share some of the useful tools and useful knowledge that probably will make your work easier. So I think this is the right time to start. So the first question we have, what kind of ML projects really need BA interaction? So before answering this question, I would like to have a quick look on the AI market itself. So first of all, as you can see from the graph, which is based on Statista data, we can see that market is forecasted to grow rapidly, even exponentially, I can say. So even more, like 82% of respondents pointed out that they experiencing the shortage of machine learning specialists. I think this point can kind of motivate you to join this field, because it's super interesting, just from my point of view. Okay, so we just had a quick look at the market. So let's define what kind of artificial intelligence projects are already in the market. So we will start with the computer vision. So here we're talking about the algorithm which processes and generate images. They are kind of imitating human eye. So a good example of computer vision algorithm, this is face detection. Probably most of you already used it via their phones. So the next one is speech recognition. Here we are processing and trying to understand the human speech, but the input file is audio file. So here we are working with the sound. And example of such a products would be Alexa, for example, or after translated subtitles on some of the streaming platforms. The next one is robotics and manufacturing. Here we're talking about products which are really connected, strongly connected to the hardware component. So they have AI, which is depending on some kind of the hardware component. So the examples of that, for example, delivery robots or manufacturing robots, so any kind of robots that may make decisions by their own. So the next one is NLP. This is natural language processing algorithm. Here we are also manipulating with the human speech, but the input file is a text, input format is a text. So we are working with the semantic clouds, as I may say. So the good example of NLP algorithm, this is GPT-3. This is very popular right now. So probably you may heard about this one. The next one is knowledge-based systems. So knowledge-based system capture the expert's knowledge to support decision-making. The example of such a product would be Oracle Knowledge product. Maybe you have heard of it. So the next one, which I decided to include, it's process automation, chatbots. So here we're trying to automate some operational things, and probably you have already met them on plenty of websites when you have a marketing bot integrated into this. So the next one, planning and scheduling. So here we have automated planning and task scheduling. So the examples of such product would be warehouse planning or, for example, meeting scheduling assistant. The next one is recommendation systems. So they predict ratings as user might give to a specific item. A good example, for example, Apple Music. When Apple Music is trying to give you some recommended tracks, so this is exactly the recommendation system. Or when you're buying something and you can see just probably in the basket stage or even before, you can see the goods suggested for you or people suggested for you in Facebook. So all of them, they are recommendation systems. And last but not least, this is time series forecasting. So here we're talking about products or algorithms that are predicting future value of a time series based on the past value. So here we're talking about training on the historical data. So, and many others. Just for your understanding, there is no solid classification for artificial intelligence subfields, so you can meet many different ones, but I decided to point out the most important, the most popular, as I may say. Before I switch to the next slide, there is a little entertainment thing I would like to include in my presentation. Actually, during preparing this presentation, I used some kind of the algorithm, AI algorithm, in order to conduct my presentation. And I will ask you, dear colleagues and dear viewers, try to make a guess in our chat what kind of AI algorithm I have been used in order to conduct this presentation. You can answer just at the end of the presentation, and maybe you would be able even to differentiate the exact slides. So it would be interesting. Yeah, so looking forward to your guess. Please do not hesitate to share them in our chat. So we defined what kind of AI products are already in the market. But if you remember, the question was how if they really needed in machine learning project. projects. So probably you will have a question in your head. What is the difference between artificial intelligence and machine learning? So the main difference that AI is a process of programming a computer to make decision for itself. It's a kind of imitating human decisions and some of the cognitive functions of us. But if we're talking about machine learning is a technology which is used and based on the process of teaching a computer to learn from data. So here you're really connected to your data, and probably most of the machine learning projects have big data in their pipelines. So here it is. I would like to differentiate different kinds of machine learning, which is depending on their training approach. So the first one is unsupervised models. So unsupervised models are trained using only input data, meaning that the model must learn to find patterns into the data by itself. So the examples of such neural networks would be recommendation systems, as well as anomaly detection and probably customer segmentation. So here we don't have any label data. We just rely on the model, which finds pattern by itself. The second type is supervised learning. So sometimes it's called learning with a teacher. So here we have labeled data. So human who annotated data in order to provide correct answers to the neural network. So here it is. The example would be like spam filters or image recognition. So and it brings me to the third type. Frankly speaking, this type is included into the supervised learning, but I decided to differentiate it because BA activities will be dependent on the type of the training of your model. So the third one is reinforcement learning. Reinforcement learning is based on the concept of reinforcement. So you're kind of playing a game with your algorithm. You are providing not only correct answers, but you're also pointing out the negative answers. So let's have an example. For if you have supervised time series algorithm, it can predict you like future sales or stock prices, but it won't determine the actions that can be done here, like selling or buying or keeping and things like that. But if you use reinforcement learning agent, so you can make such a decision here, because you have negative answers and negative inputs as well. So that's it about the machine learning approaches. And I would like to point out that all of these projects really need BA interaction in order to let your data scientist focus on data science tasks. So BA will take responsibility for all the preparational things, checking things, and all other activities that will be represented a little bit later. So here we defined what the machine learning is, what kind of products are already in artificial intelligence market field. So I think this is a good moment to switch to the key skills and competencies, which are vital for business analysts in machine learning. So let's define the main areas of responsibilities. So the first one is value and domain. So in order to do your work, you need to feel the problem of your users. You need to know your painful points, and you need to know if machine learning is needed to decide this problem, because it's a kind of trend right now. Everyone wants to use AI and machine learning, but sometimes your problem can be solved just by your rule-based algorithm. But so please check if ML really needed. Moreover, besides the problem, you should also know you should know the environment. You should track the changes, because if something has changed, it will definitely lead to some changes into your data. So you need to know how to adopt your mechanism based on these changes. And of course, domain knowledge. Domain knowledge is a crucial thing because it will help you a lot to define hypothesis, right hypothesis, much more faster. So the second area of responsibility is data management. Business analysts in machine learning projects are working with data sources and defining the types of data. Also, business analyst is responsible for knowing all the correlation between entities. If one entity has changed, if it would lead to the changes somewhere else. So it's also very important to know. And in this third one, but not least, the familiarity with data environment. This is very close to domain knowledge, but from the data point of view. So the third area of responsibilities, that would be data visualization. So you need to bring your insights and show them to different audiences. So you need to answer the questions using your data visualizations. And moreover, you should work on the metrics definition and metrics reporting, which will help you to track the quality and delivery itself. Last but not least is about result interpretation and integration. So you need to understand your results. You need to understand how the model works and what you are waiting from it. So moreover, right now in machine learning, it's a super trendy thing, which is called explainability. So this is a component which is made in order to answer the main question: why your model has predicted that. So in human readable language. So this is a kind of creative task, so which is kind of challenging, but you also need to write requirements here, make researches and things like that. And of course, integration. So probably most of the machine learning algorithms are integrated into the third parties. So here you should be ready for the writing integration requirements. Here it is, we define the main areas, so responsibility areas. So let's have a look on the main skill which would be needed for the analyst in any kind of machine learning project. So first of all, analytical skills. I'm talking not about requirements, about the diagrams and things like that. I'm talking about the ability to analyze data and identify patterns and trends. And moreover, you should be familiar with statistical methods and machine learning algorithms as it is. So the next one, this is data visualization. So here, your experience with data visualization tool will be crucial. Power BI, Tableau, also you need to know SQL or Python. It will be super useful for you. The next one is domain knowledge. We already covered this point, that you need to know the pain of your users, you need to know the market itself. Integration skills, so dealing with different kind of requirements for integration activities. And communication skill, I think this no comments needed, because probably most of the BA activities really need this skill as well. So, okay, we define the area of responsibilities, and we also define the main must-have skills. So let's have a look on the stages where BA interaction is needed. So first one is feature design, when you formulate your hypothesis. The second one is data ingestions. Here you're working with data sources and data management, and also starting your statistical hypothesis and research it. Then feature creation. This the stage where the whole magic started. So here it is, you're training your model and starting the functional implementation. So after that, testing. Here it is a specific testing frameworks. We will talk about that a little bit later. So unfortunately, there is no solid acceptance criteria in machine learning, which can be transformed in test cases. So that's why testing framework is a little bit specific. So after you tested and released your feature, you need to know how to estimate it. You need to know what kind of metrics will show you if it was successful or not. And moreover, integration and support. Here we're talking about all the integration activities and moreover communicating with your end users. You're dealing with big data. Sometimes you just cannot cover all the cases, but your end users can bring you a lot of insights on it. Okay, so we defined responsibilities, we defined skills, and we talked about different stages where BA interaction is needed. So let's switch to the software development cycle specifics in machine learning projects. So let's compare the traditional software development lifecycle, which is probably known for most of you. So here we're starting with requirements analysis, then switching to design, then development, testing, deployment, maintenance, and then again. And let's have a look on the machine learning model development process. So here I should point out the data-centric approach. The crucial specific in machine learning software development cycle is that in machine learning, the data is used to train the model, not only to test it, like in all other development projects. So here you can see this, that we're starting with the problems and goals definition. After that, we're starting working with the data. We're collecting data in order to understand if there are some statistical correlations which we can base our feature based on that. After that data is collected, we're switching to data preparation, where we need to clean the data to check all of the needed non-functional requirements like accuracy, completeness, explainability, and things like that. A little bit later, I will show you a super useful list of non-functional requirements, which probably will be useful in your work. So after data is prepared, you're switching to model learning. So the training process is starting here. So when you train your model, you need to test it. And after the testing, you can deploy it and integrate that. So after everything is deployed and integrated, you switch to the model management and then come into the circle again. So that's the main difference, the data-centric approach again. But let's have a deeper look into the machine learning pipeline. So here it is, the scheme which is showing what is actually happening there. So first of all, you're starting with your data sources. You need to define where your data is stored and how to get it. So then you're collecting it. And after you collected that, you need to understand, is it enough? Is it good enough? Or does it have any gaps or something like this? So on this stage, you transform your data and explore your data. For the exploration stage, I strongly recommend you to use Jupyter Notebook. It will help you a lot in order to analyze your big data. So after you transform your data and clean it up, you can switch to the main magic stage, where the training one. So the model creation starts in here. After you trained your model, you can get some tests, and after you just assured that your metrics increased, that you met the aims that you were actually were chasing. So on this, after all of the stages are done, you're switching to the model operation. The model operation is a process when you're asking already trained model, just give me predictions, work in other words. So the process of giving predictions, of forecasting, in other words, it's called inference in machine learning. So This is their end point where you just deliver your output to your end users. So I suppose that that's it with the software development lifecycle. And we can switch to the concrete BA tasks, and let's zoom into on BA practices in ML machine learning projects. So here it is. I would like to differentiate BA activities based on machine learning training approach. So if we're talking about unsupervised learning, so business analysts will be focused on data analysis as well as edge cases investigations and result interpretation. If we're talking about supervised learning, here business analysts probably would be focused on labeling requirements as well as a labeling process management. Also, the data formats management is a kind of painful neck here because you need to transform different formats into each other. And also ground truth validation. So very often BA is responsible for checking the quality of ground truth. And if we're talking about reinforcement learning, here business analyst is interacted more into the game scenarios, also monitoring training processes and integration with third parties. Actually, integration can be met in each type of of training, but in reinforcement learning, if you want to get some feedback from your end users and then to retrain your model based on that. So you will need to be integrated for sure into some kind of components. For example, let's take likes and dislikes. So like is a correct input when the dislike is an incorrect input. And you can train your model based on dislikes if you have enough of them. So, okay. And let's once again zoom in on BA task and exit areas where BA operates in. So the domain knowledge, understand the business problem, product activities like hypothesis formulations and business opportunities, data focus, identify the sources, types, and mount and check validity. So the next one is result interpretation and explainability, just to make sense of your output. And the last one is integration requirements. We already talked about them a lot. So I think that this is the right time to give you some concrete examples of tasks which BA can do in the machine learning project. So the first one, very common for all the BAs, hypothesis generation, its validation, as well as requirement solicitation and keeping your project documentation. Nobody refused the fundamentals parts. So the next one is data-related tasks. So probably you will have tasks on data mining, on the definition of data sources, data types compatibility. And also you will have an analytics scope for sure. So you will work with the reportings, with metrics monitoring, statistical hypothesis checks. If we're talking about representing your model to the different kind of audience and ability to explain how it works, so here it is the demo presentation skill step in. And of course, you need constantly communicate with your stakeholders and end users, which, just a reminder, can bring you a lot of insights. And this is a common thing for all the projects, I suppose. And last section, but not least, set up a specific testing framework here. So here it is that you don't have any solid acceptance criteria in machine learning that can be easily transformed into the testing cases. So here you probably, so you will start with a manual test, and after that you will define the framework, how they can be automated. And manual testers, which is very important point, should be very specialized in your domain. They need to know the specifics of that. And explainability, the last one, this is actually very well represented on the picture on the right. So when you can explain with a story what actually your model done. So once again, this is super interesting trend, and different kind of projects right now experimenting on that. And this is very interesting tasks for the because they includes prototyping, that also includes work with the data, UX, and so on and so forth. Okay, so we just had a look on the concrete BA activities examples. So I think this is the right moment to switch to the requirements specific. Is there really any difference? So first of all, let's take a look on the functional requirement. What is very important here, that usually functional requirements will require for you specific domain expertise, because you can formulate a lot of hypotheses, but the success rate of them will be strongly correlating with your domain knowledge. And moreover, you often will meet some errors in your data, and it will require the change request management to your requirements. For example, you formulated a hypothesis, and after that, data didn't prove it. It showed that there is no correlations like that, and there is no training data which can be used for such a feature. So you will step back and change your functional requirements. So don't be afraid of this. It happens, and because we don't have any best practices in our field yet. So, and the last one, but not least, that functional requirements can be open-ended. So after your statistical hypothesis is checked, you can add some crucial details to your functional requirement as well. So what about the non-functional requirement? If we're talking about how it's done, not what's done, but how we're gonna do this. So the first one and the most crucial, I think the data word is like the most popular for me today, but it really is. So the data requirements. So you need to work with accuracy, consistency, integrity, and privacy, and many more. Actually, on the next slide, I will give you the list. Probably it will be helpful for you. Besides that, integration activities. So in order to set communication with other components or products or platforms, you need to know this integration approach, like API, like using your databases, and so on and so forth. And moreover, one of the most important thing, due to huge amount of data you need to process, due to high computational power, it always leads to complex machine learning operations part. What does it mean? It means that you need a specific hardware which is able to process them. So when I'm talking the hardware, it can be cloud as well, but behind this cloud is hardware as well. So we're talking about the environment. We're talking about the orchestration platforms. We're talking about clusters and things on and so forth. So here the ML ops work is like super complex, and most of the projects have a dedicated team of ML ops who are making kind of DevOps work, but for this complex infrastructure. So that's it about the main specific of the requirements. So here it is, the slide which I already mentioned twice. So this is a list of important non-functional requirements for machine learning systems. So here you can see different ones, from accuracy, correctness, ethics, fairness, privacy, transparency, and so on and so on. So not all of them can be used in your project, but you can look at this list and define what are the most important non-functional requirements that you will need. So that's it for the non-functional requirements. And I think this is a right time to switch to the practical cases. So the first project I would like to share with you, this is the object detection project. So I worked in autonomous driving projects, and there our main aim was to train and test object detection algorithm, detecting and classifying vehicles, pedestrians, traffic signs on the road of different scenes. So here we have supervised learning. So you can see the labels on the right side of the slide. So the data types were images and 3D point clouds. Images is from camera, 3D point clouds from LiDAR or radar. So what kind of B activities I had in this project? So I was focused on labeling requirements, labeling process management, as well as checking the ground truth quality by inventing some kind of dashboards and reports representing me the amount, the quality, the classes, and things like that. So moreover, I was working on the model output evaluation. So working with the output of the model in order to understand if it meets your KPIs and your goals. Moreover, a very important thing to look at the competitors and market analysis, because we are working in such a fast-paced environment. We always need to look if there is any new best practices, because there are just few of them and they're just appearing. So it's very useful to look around just to understand if you can reuse some good practices. If you're working in supervised learning project, I strongly recommend you to search and explore the annotation tools, because the speed of your labeling process was strongly correlating with that. Labeling is a kind of super monotonous work when you need to make the labels on the images, and it's a kind of hard one. In order to make it fast and to make it to increase the quality, you need a good tool. So that's why you need to always keep a hand on the different tools and their updates and probably new ones. So it will reduce the cost, because it will significantly reduce the time of annotation. And moreover, if we're talking about computer vision, so it's always about data formats compatibility, because all of these labels need to be transformed in XML and JSONs, on YAML, in any kind of text formats. So here you need to be attentive with this formats transformation. So that's it about the object detection project. And the next one I would like to share with you is actually my current one project I'm working right now. So here in EPAM, we're working on matching model, which is automating and optimizing company staffing process by matching internal candidates to open positions and vice versa. So here we're using unsupervised learning. So most of my activities are focused on data, not labels. So here I'm working with a hypothesis formulation and validation, requirements for sure, for data science and engineering features, as well as data-related tasks, which kind of like the very big part of your work. So data sources, mining, consistency checks, and things like that. Moreover, I'm responsible for the reporting part, for building Power BI reports in order to track the quality and delivery. So you need to not only to track, but you also need to write requirements for this reporting, define all the dimensions and things like that. And last not least, the testing cases description. So here it is, the BA needs to define the testing framework. I advise you to start with the manual testing and after that switch to automated one, because manual testing can bring a lot of insights, and because people who are doing this need to be specialized in your area and be really well known with the painful point of your end users. So that's it concerning the recommendation system. And I think that's it brings me to the last but probably the sweetest part of my presentation. So this is life hacks and tips. So there is a kind of list of useful advices that I would like to share with you. So first of all, if you're just onboarded in the project, start with domain model and entity relation diagram. It will help you to define all the entities, their correlations, their data types, and so on and so on. So this is very important because it will save your time on understanding the whole process and all the data relations. After that, always check your data. Check if your sources are valid. Check if you have enough amount of training or testing data. So, by the way, you should never test on the data that you used on training. This is one of the important rules in machine learning. So you will also need to check the compatibility and completeness of it. So just know your data. I will rephrase this point. The next one, I strongly recommend you to use Jupyter Notebook for big data analysis, model evaluation, and even testing. So it will help you to define the feature importance, how your feature influence the output, and so on and so on. So this is very, very useful tool. It was used by all the data scientists I know, and also it will help business analysts in order to, on the testing stage, model evaluation and data analysis as well. Next one, so I strongly recommend you to deep dive into statistic methods. So you need to know what is the linear regression is, what is a correlation, what is a classification, 3-3 methods, and so on and so on. So because you will work with them, because many of the data science tasks are based on this statistical methods. So it would be super useful for you to know what they are talking about and to use it in your daily tasks. Last but not least, I really recommend you to collect your edge cases. The cases where the model output was weird. So you can use these cases in your testing. It's a kind of extremum points, which showing and representing possible issues. So in order to make your testing more efficient, you definitely need the collection of edge cases. I think that it slightly brings me to the last slide of my presentation. So I hope that this information was useful for you. And in case you have any questions, feel free to use our chat, and probably if some question occur in your head after that. So feel free to contact me. You can see my email here. So I will be happy to answer your question. But before we will switch to the questions, I'm just reminding you concerning my question. So I used some of the AI products for my presentation. Please make a guess. I'm just showing to you again the slide. What kind of AI products were used? And probably you can even recognize the specific slide. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much for being here with me on this Friday evening, and I hope it was useful.
Yes, Zora, it was very, very useful. And to be honest, so there are a lot of assumptions in our chat. So if you can just look through some of them in YouTube, for example. So I believe you can find a lot of interesting ones.
Yep. Can you please read it, because I'm sharing this. I can stop sharing, right? So.
Yes.
Yep, sure. Moment. Yep. Just let's start with them. I will try to find the moment. So let's have the question. Did you generate all the illustration using Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, and Daily? Yeah, this is a good question, because the person is asking if all the pictures were generated by very popular neural networks, but nope. Actually, all of the pictures manually conducted. So I didn't use computer vision products and algorithms for my presentation. But thanks for your guess. Yeah. So thank you so much. That's it. After that, let me. Zhenya, probably you, if it's not difficult for you, could you just help me with the questions because it seems like.
Yeah, so we have one question from via community platform. So, what were your challenges and how did you overcome them when you were working on these projects?
Okay, so I think that the biggest challenge is to how can I say, to make your end users and stakeholders understand that you're a data-centric product. If your data doesn't provide such insights, you cannot, for example, prioritize some entities over others. So you just need the data. So most of the challenges are connected with data clarity, with data latency, with data drifts. For some of the machine learning products, data drifts are crucial. So because they can predict something or make the output not valid based on the data drift on historical data and so on. So if we don't, besides the data challenges, the challenge is to interpret your results. So this explainability thing, you need to make up how to represent the main model core, the model's logic to people. And I think this is a kind of most challenging, but still very, very creative one. And probably the last one is to persuade people that AI products are not going to take our works from us. They will probably automate all the repetitive tasks and things like that, but we would still need people to validate them. But as for now, yeah, but just for our understanding. So I think this is the main challenges: data, just interrupt your data to the different audiences, explainability part, and also like a lot of myths about AI which need to be like deprecated by you. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, so if one has no hands-on statistics or is part of the academics, how to gain knowledge on same? For instance, you mentioned about linear regression, correlation.
The correlation, right? So actually, I advise you to find some courses on the statistics. If you are my colleague in EPAM, we have a huge learning library, and you can find statistical courses there. If you are out of EPAM, so I would suggest you to use Coursera. They have very good statistical courses, and I think that these courses would be enough for your understanding. So you don't need to make any hardcore math statistics, but you need to understand how all of this approaches. And by the way, I actually had a link to very, very cool course of representation of theory of I just forgot moment the name of the math disciplines when we're talking about the different on the just moment, sorry, this is a late evening, I just started forgetting the words. Let me think. Yaps, thanks. So I had a tip. So if I talk in the probability theory, and I have a link, and probably I can share it in our chat, if you don't mind, because they have a very good visualization. And even if you never dealt with statistics things like regression or correlation, probably you will understand the main meaning. So I will try to find this link right now and will share it with you in a chat.
It would be great also if you include this link to your presentation because it will be shared with our
Yep.
audience. So, yep. So, and we have one more question. What are the typical roles in ML projects?
Oh, this is a good question. So, in comparison with traditional software development, we have like backend, front end, we have testing, we have DevOps, we have business analyst, we have product owner, and team leaders, and things like that. But in machine learning projects, you have data science team, or your data scientists who are working on data science tasks. Moreover, you have an engineering part. This is a backend part. So here it is people who are doing this engineering tasks. It can be Python, it can be C++, and things like that. Moreover, you would have the testing team, you would have the product owner for sure, and you will have the DevOps team, which is sometimes called ML ops, because they have a specifics which is connected with the computational power, which is you need the huge one. So that's the main setup, like data scientists, engineers, product owner, business analysts, testers, and DevOps/ML ops. Team leaders and things like that, they're dependent on your project.
Okay, thank you. And I guess the last one, how much time do you spend on data investigation per day?
It's a good question. Thanks a lot for asking. For day, it depends, because I have some days, for example, I have Mondays which are dedicated to statistics and reporting and metrics, and I have Thursdays which are dedicated more to the refinement and things like that. So I can't say that like on a daily basis I'm doing that, but if I take an overall, I think that 50% of my work is connected with the data investigation. I wouldn't say that cleaning, this is a part of data science work, but to define sources, to define types, to define the validity of this data and the correlations into between entities. So this is definitely like half of my work.
Okay,
So you need
thank
to know. Sorry, that small comment from my side, additional one. So you really need to know how database works, how the API works in order to work with it.
Okay, cool. One more. So what project risks are more specific for ML or AI projects?
Good question. Thank you so much. So data drifts. So any problems with your data will immediately reflected in your output. Moreover, sometimes the market itself behaving in a very specific way. For example, this year, 2029, was full of unexpected and horrible things and things like that. But sometimes your model can be influenced by that because the data is not consistent. There are some patterns which are not taken into account. So you always need to track the environment and to look how it influences your model. So what about more risks and specifics? If you are working with supervised machine learning, the risk is about quality of your annotations, quality of your labels. If the labels are done in a bad way, in a bad quality, so the results will be not so good. So if we're talking about supervised, so this is risk about bad labeling. So I think that most of the risks are connected with data again, because all of the machine learning projects are super data centric. So like 70% of those risks are connected with the data itself, and also with the computational power. So you're dealing with million of rows. So training data set like 50 million of rows is like common thing in machine learning, and you need to process them again and again, so you need a huge environment. So here I think that the many risks can be hidden here, into your environment, into your orchestration, and all of these infrastructure things. That's it.
Okay, thank you. I see that you have your own fun in our chat in YouTube. So
Wow.
yeah, so like after your session, so it would be great if you can just look at all comments. So I believe you'll be able to identify this person. But still, last question from him. So, what BA resources are you following?
I have some Telegram channels which I am following. I also really keen on Statista, so I love the resource, and I have some. I have some channels in Telegrams, frankly speaking, which are very interested about data viz and things like that. And Kolya, I will share it with you. Don't worry. And what about more about? Actually, I love Nature magazine. I'm not quite sure that it's only about the work, but in real life, I really love to explore the science magazines. So if we're talking about Nature, they have a special dedicated section for machine learning, and there are a lot of interesting insights there can be found. So I think also I'm following on Instagram the I just forgot the name, but this is very cool account which is actually generating pictures based on ML. So they have the training data set of some of the accounts, and he's training on them, and then post the picture. And actually, the computer vision is trained on Elon Musk, so all of the pictures had the face of Elon Musk, and the text is generated also based on the NLP algorithms. So that's it, I think. If I will remember something else, I will add it to my presentation.
Yeah, so I believe the audience will appreciate if you can add some resources, especially so Instagram, for example. It's like something very fun, I believe. So I see no more questions. So thank you, Zura, for your presentation. It was really very interesting, engaging. So thank you a lot, and thank you. Yeah, so our audience for your questions and for being with us. Yeah, so